some chat boxes over here, as you can see, and this first one is somewhat different than this second one, right? So the only difference is in the background color and also the way this text is getting reflected over here. So it is getting reflected with this photograph over here. And if I'll talk about this second message box, so here the photograph is floating on the right side and the text is floating on the left side of this box, right? And similarly we have this time component also, where we are able to see the time at which the messages have been sent by the users, right? So now let's check out how can we design this web form using simple HTML and CSS coding on Weblab. So for accessing Weblab on this code.org platform, we need to hit this sign in button first. It is going to redirect us on this beautiful page. Now here we need to enter the ID with which we can access our respective dashboard on this platform. So once you're done with entering your login credentials over here, you're going to come across your dashboard. Fine. Now for accessing Weblab, you can come over here right on the top and hit this create button. So this is a beautiful cascading menu you're going to come across. Right. Now let's come down and we need to hit this view all projects option. So it is again going to redirect us on a very beautiful page where when you will scroll down, you will be able to see this view full list option getting reflected. Now what you have to do, you need to hit this view full list option and then you will be able to see all the labs that you can use on this platform. So because we want to go with this Weblab right now, so let's hit this icon over here. So this is the environment you are going to come on after hitting that Weblab option. Fine. Now let's go back on this web page. So here the first thing right on the top which is visible to us is this text. So chat message. How can we get this kind of thing reflected over here on the stage area? That's what we have to first find out. So what we can do, because it's in bold, so we guys can go for header tag. So I'm using h1 tag for now, and let's write down chat message, and because it is a container tag, so we need to close it also. Okay, so we are able to see this chat message reflecting over here on the stage area. But if you'll compare this chat message with this text, so you'll find that this is somewhat smaller in size as in comparison to this one, right? So how can we reduce the size of this text? What we can do, we can make use of h2 header instead of h1. So this is what you are going to get as an output. So there are, as you know, there are 6 kinds of headers which we can make use of on an HTML platform. So there h1 is the first one, then h2, then h3, then h4, then h5, then h6. Okay, so for now I am making use of this h2 header. Okay, now let's check out how can we define a code with which we can get this kind of message box over here on the stage area. So I would like to first define a separate section for this box over here. And what is a tag we can make use of for doing that? We can make use of division tag, of course, right? Okay, now inside this division tag, what are the various elements we need to define the tags for? So we have an image, then we have a text, and we have a text over here which is reflecting the time at which this person has sent this message to this person. Okay, So let's first make use of this img tag for accessing this image. Now for adding this image to this platform, what I can do, we can make use of this add image option, which you can find right next to this add CSS. When you will hit this add image option, automatically you're going to get redirected on this manage assets library, or you can say what we call it, manage assets section, and here you will be able to see this upload file button. Hit this button, it is going to redirect you on one of the locations present on your device. So I have the relevant photographs present on my desktop right now, so I'm going to go on my desktop directly, and from here I will select these two photographs. Fine, so this is the first one I'm selecting. So the image is getting uploaded right now. Okay, so now I'm able to see that this Gaurav.jpg image has successfully uploaded, and it is now visible to us in this asset section of Weblab. Similarly, we can upload the second photograph also in the asset section. Okay, so we are able to see now both the images over here. Let's close this window. Now, how can we access the first image, that is Gaurav's image, with the help of this tag? So the attribute that we can make use of for accessing the image is src. Src stands for source. Fine, and inside this we are going to define the hyperlink, or you can say the name of the image which we would like to see in this first box. Fine, and now suppose if due to some or the other issue, if the image is not accessible on the user's device, so I would like an alternative text to be visible in place of this image to that user. How can we do that? So there is an attribute named alt, which we guys can make use of for getting the required result. And inside this I am going to write down, let's write down Gaurav's message. Okay, and then I would like to close it here, and as you can see the image is now getting reflected on the stage area. Fine, now if I will remove this V from here, so it is incorrectly spelled, right? So as you can see, the alternative text is now visible to us over here in the stage area. So that's how you can make use of this alt attribute. Okay, fine. Now after this image we have a text getting reflected just next to this image. So for this text part I am going to make use of paragraph tag, which is P. What is this text saying? Hello, how are you today? So what we can do, we can copy this text from here and we can paste it over here like this, and let's enclose it in between these two paragraph tags. Right, what else do we have over here in this box? We have this text which is reflecting the time at which the text was sent by this person. So for that time part I am going to make use of this tag named span. Okay, now inside this I am going to write down 11, whatever the time is. Okay, and let's close this span tag. It is again a container tag, right? So we need to define the starting part also and the ending part also for this tag. So this is what you are going to see over here on this stage area now. So why the photograph is not visible to us? Okay, so the name over here is not correctly defined. Yes, so we are able to see the photograph getting reflected over here. We are able to see this text also, and we are able to see the time also at which the text or the message was sent by this user. Now let's do one thing. Let's customize the view of these three things. So for doing that, the best way is to first define a class for this division section in which all these three attributes are there. So I am defining this class named container. Okay, let's now come on this CSS file and eliminate everything whatever we have by default inside this file. Now how can we access that container file which we just defined for that first division tag? So we can make use of this. We can write down the name of the class like this, and just before this class we need to place a dot. So this is a syntax that you have to keep in mind if you are accessing a class on this CSS file. Inside this, the first thing that I would like to define is the border. So I would like to have a border of 2 pixels, and it should be a solid border. Now what should be the color of the border? That is the major issue. How can we find the color code of this border of this first box? So in order to find the color code of the border, we can make use of the color picker tool, which you can easily get in the animation workspace of Weblab. So let's come over here on this create button, and we are going to again come on this view all projects. Okay, so we have this Weblab option over here. Let's hit this Weblab option. So it is going to redirect you on this Weblab platform of code.org. Let's now come on this animation workspace of Weblab, and here we can hit this new animation tab. It is going to redirect you to this beautiful animation library, where right on the top in the first row you will be able to see this draw your own option. Let's hit this draw your own option, and then you are going to come across this empty frame. Now what I am going to do, I am going to take a snapshot of that web page which I am designing right now. So how can we take a snapshot of this? So you have a key named print screen on your keyboard. You just have to press that, and then you can make use of Ctrl and V together for pasting that snapshot you have taken on this empty frame. Okay, so this is what you're going to see over here. Now in order to find out the color code of this border of this first box, we can make use of this color picker tool. Let's hit this color picker tool, and after this, with the help of this color picker tool, we can select this border. Let's just click over here, and when you will come down right below over here, so this is the code that you will get to see over here in this input box. So this is the code of this color, okay, which is getting reflected on this border of this first message box. Now I am going to copy this code, and let's go back on this CSS file, and I am pasting it over here. So as you can see, now a border is visible to us over here, right? So that's how you can define a border for this container. Okay, let's customize it more. Now we also have to define a background color, right? So for doing that, we can make use of this background color property. Now how can we get the background color of this of this chat box? So what we can do, we can make use of this color picker tool, and let's click somewhere over here. So automatically when you will go down, you will be able to see in this input box the color code of this color. Let's copy this and go back on the CSS platform, and here I am pasting the color code, and as you can see, now the color is visible to us over here in the background of this container box, right? So that's how you can make use of the color picker tool. Now we need to have some border radius also. Now why we need to have border radius, that is a question. As you can see, the border over here is somewhat round in shape, Okay, to get this kind of shape, you can play with the border radius property. So right now they are pointed, as you can see over here. Now if I will pass a value of, let's say, 10 pixel, so now you will get a rounded, you'll get to see some rounded borders. Okay, that's how you can make them round. And if you will pass somewhat a value near to 5 pixels, definitely you will get the exact output. Yes, this is better. Okay, so we are going to keep it 5 pixels only for now. Fine. Now we need to define some padding. So I am going to pass 10 pixels for this padding property. So as you can see, now we are able to see some space in between this border and this content which is there inside this box. So padding is for giving or defining some space inside the component. Okay, inside a component. Now if you want to define some space outside the component, you can make use of this margin property. So I am going to have this 10 pixel and 0. Fine. This is what now you will get to see as an output. So there is a space we are able to see over here in between the border of this box and this page border. Okay, let's now style the body. Now for accessing the body, we just have to write down body over here. Okay, and I would like to define a margin of 0, and let's pass this auto also for this margin property. Okay, and then maximum width I would like to define for this body, because it is not covering the entire width. These boxes over here are not taking the entire width of this page. So in order to control the width, we can make use of this maximum width. So the maximum width should be equal to, let's say, 800 pixels. Now when you will refresh this code, so this is what you are going to get as an output. So it is getting reflected right in the middle, and we are able to see a long space in between this border and the margins of the page. Let's come back over here and define something for the padding also. So I'm going to make use of these two values, 0 and 2 pixels. So this is what now you are going to see as an output over here. Okay, fine. Now let's go back on this HTML document. So everything is perfectly fine. Now we need to set the view of these components, right? So I would like to see it in a circular, in a circle kind of thing, this image, and we need to make it float just next to this image. Okay, and we need to float this time over here on the right side. How can we do that? So for doing that, the best way is to define some some class for this span tag. So I am going to define, see, because this time is floating on the right side, so for this box I am going to make use of time right class. Okay, and for when we will define the code for this second box, we will use time left for the span property, okay, of this time over here. Let's come back and see what else can we do. Fine, so we are done with defining this division, and we have this container class over here. For this division we have this image, then paragraph tag, and this span tag, and for this span tag we have this class named time right. Okay, let's now go back on that CSS file and style the image component. Now how can we access the image component which is present inside the container class? So for doing that, we just have to write down the name of the class, and then we can write down the name of the tag which we want to access. So container img, it is going to help us in accessing this image. Now let's first define the value for this float property. So I would like to see it floating in the left side. As you can see, this image is floating right now on the left side in this first chat box. So we can pass left over here. Okay, it is going to bring this image on the left side of this box. What else do we need to do? Okay, we need to define the maximum width also for this image. So I would like to define a width of 60 pixel. Now it is completely inside the box. Okay, that's how you can control the size of this image with this attribute maximum width. Okay, now let's define width also. So I would like to see it always 100% wide. Fine. And margin, let's define some space in between. Just a second. So this margin right is going to help us in defining some space in between this image and this text over here. So some space it is going to provide us to the right, in the right of this image. Okay, margin right. I would like to have a space of, let's say, 20 pixels. Fine, so it is now coming perfectly fine. Okay, then as you can see, the image is in a circular kind of thing, in a circle kind of thing. How can you make this rectangle turn into a circle? How can you turn this into a circle? That's what we have to think. So what we can do, we can make use of border radius property for turning this rectangle into a circle. So this is a value which you can pass, and now you can see a perfect circle getting reflected over here on the stage area. Right, so that's how you can customize this photograph. Now what else are we left with? This text is getting reflected over here. Now the only thing that we need to customize is the view of this time. Okay, so where have we defined the time? So this time part, we have defined it inside this span tags. Okay, how can we access this time part? That's what we have to think now. So the class with which we can make use of for accessing this time part is time right. So I'm going to copy this class name from here and let's place it over here, and just before this time right I'm going to place a dot. Okay, so this is a syntax which you have to keep in mind if you want to access any class over here on this CSS file. Now let's customize the view of this time part, of this time. The first thing that I would like to do is I would like to see it getting reflected over here on the right side of this window. So we can make use of this float property, and let's pass right as a value for this. So as you can see, right now this time is visible to us over here on the right side of the window. Okay, now it is getting reflected in black color. I would like to change the color to this color. So first of all, we need to find out the color code of this text over here. For doing that, we can come back on this beautiful game lab. Let's make use of this color picker tool and find out the color of this time text. So this is the color code. I am copying it, and let's make use of this color property and pass this value for this property. So when you will refresh this window, so you will be able to see the changes over here. Okay, now the only thing which is looking odd to me is the way this time is getting reflected. So it is coming on the border of this box. How can we make the appearance of this whole block more appealing. Now that's what we have to think about. So again, CSS, what better than CSS? So now in order to apply some CSS on this part, what we can do, we can make use of first the class inside which all these three elements are there. So the name of the class is container. Fine. And now we can make use of this property after. Okay, so this property over here is used for generating pseudo element, and because we have used after, so it is going to generate pseudo elements just after this container class. Okay, now we can pass something for the content properties. See, there are three properties which we can play with inside this after. Okay, so the first thing that we can pass a value for is this content property, because we do not have any content besides these three things. We don't have anything else inside this box, so we can pass a null value for this content property. That's how you can do it. Now if you'll refresh it again, this is coming on the border of this box, right? So there are two more properties for which we can pass some values. The second property is clear. Okay, so it is going to clear all the other codes we have defined for this container class. So clear, I would like to clear both the things. So this is a value that you can pass for this clear property, and besides I would like to have a table kind of display, because it's it's a row kind of thing which is getting reflected over here. So we can have a table kind of display, and now when you will refresh this window, you will be able to get the desired output. See, we are able to see this time in a perfect way. It is getting reflected in a perfect way over here inside this box, right? And it is very much identical to this box which is present right on the top on this window. So we are done with defining the required code for this first box. Now let's come on this second box and define the code for this one. So let's go back on this HTML document. I am copying this code and I am going to place it over here. Okay, now as you can see, the background color of this first box is somewhat lighter than this second box. Okay, and besides the way the text and this photo is getting reflected over here in this second dark box is somewhat different, the way the image and this text is getting reflected in this first box. So how can we get this result, this output? That's what we have to now think and code for. Okay, so we have this image over here. Let's define a class for this image. Okay, but before that I would like to define one more class for this second division tag. So it is going to be darker. Okay, so that's how you can define more than one class for a particular tag. You need to give a space in between the names of the class. Remember this thing. So this is a syntax with which you need to remember, you need to keep in mind if you are defining more than one class for a particular tag. Let's go back on this CSS file, and here we are going to access that darker class. Now how can we access that darker class? That's what we have to think. The way we have accessed this container class over here, in the same way we can access the darker class also, just by writing down the name of the class and placing a dot just before the name of the class. Now inside this I am going to define something for the border color first. So the border color is going to be, sorry, let's eliminate, let me just eliminate whatever was there inside these two curly brackets. Okay, now we need to define some border color first. So border color is the property we can make use of. Now let's find out the border color of this second box. We can come over here on this game lab and let's make use of this color picker tool to find out the border color. So this is the color code of the border color of this second message box. I am going to paste it over here. Fine. Okay, now what else do we need to do? We need to change the background color also. So it is somewhat darker, right? How can we get a dark color like this? Let's hit this box, and this is the color code of this dark colored box. Let's paste it over here. Okay, now when you'll refresh this window, this is what you are going to see as an output. Okay, fine. Let's go back on this HTML coding, and here the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to change the name of this class which is getting reflected over here for this span tag. So this time I am going to have time left class for this span tag, and let's change the time to 11:1. So Gaurav has sent a message at 11, and this person has replied to that message at 11:1. We need to change the photograph also. So right now I am going to make use of this second photograph, which is Ankit's photograph. Okay, and let's change this value we have for this alt attribute. So it is Ankit's message, right? Okay, what else do we need to do? Let's define a class for this image tag also. So I am going to have a class with name, let's say right. Okay, so we have now a class for this image tag also. Let's go on this CSS file and define the code for styling this image and this text over here. So the first thing that I need to do is we need to make this image float in the right side on this box. For doing that, we need to access this image first. And how can we how can we access this image? So we can write down the name of the tag, then we can place a dot, and after that we can write down the name of the class we have defined for this image tag. So this is one more way you can access any class, and whatever components are present inside that class, now you will be able to customize the look of those particular elements. So because I want to see it floating in the right side, so definitely we are going to make use of this float property first, and let's pass right as a value for this float. So as you can see, now this pic is getting reflected in the right side of this box. Okay, what else can we do? We can have some margin in the left side. So I'm going to have a 20 pixels margin. Okay, so we are done with getting this image over here on the right side of this box. Now the only thing that we are left with is this text and this time over here. So how can we customize this time? That's what we have to think. Now what is the class we have defined for this span tag of this text? So the name of the class is time left. let's copy it from here, and I am going to place a dot first, and let's paste the name of the class. Okay, now we would like to change the color of this text to the one which is getting reflected over here. Let's find out the color code. So this is the color code of this text, and I am going to make use of this property color. Let's paste it over here. Okay, now besides this, I would like to make it float on the left side of the window. So that's how you can do it. Right, I think now everything is perfectly fine, and we are getting exactly the same output what is required. Okay, now as you can see, there are 5 different boxes which are visible to us over here on this window. How can you create this kind of view on this web page? So the only thing that you have to do now is you can copy these 2 division tags, okay, and everything whatever we have defined inside these division sections, and you just have to paste it like this. Automatically 2 more boxes are going to get created. If you want to make some changes in the text over here, you just have to eliminate these texts, and you can write whatever you want to. For example, the first message is hello, how are you today? And then the second message is going to be hi, I'm fine, thanks for asking. So I'm pasting it over here. Now the third message, sorry, okay, now the third message is whatever the third message is, I can write it down over here in between these 2 paragraph tags. So let's say how was the meeting with the boss. Fine, then let's write down something in reply to this message. So we can write down the meeting was awesome, our channel GFG School is soon going to hit some milestones. Okay, so we can write down something like this, and as you can see, this is the kind of output you are going to get finally over here on the web page. Right, now if you want to see it on your mobile phones, you can make use of this link, and you can paste it in the URL part of the browser. After pasting it, you just have to press enter button, and this is what you are going to come across. So this is going to be the mobile view of this web page. Okay, so hope you guys enjoyed this lecture a lot. Do like and share this video with your friends in your groups so that more and more students can come and join this channel and learn to code free of cost. Thank you very much for attending this lecture and joining.